Mr. Robert Randazzo. Pleasure to have you on board, sir. How you doing?
Well, thank you. If you're saying legendary, you've seen some of my recent landings. So it's,
Well, hey, it's what is the saying? It's as long as you can walk away from it, it's a good landing, and if you can use it again, then it's even better, right? So if you can use the airplane
yeah,
again, yeah.
yeah. The
So
one I had yesterday, Jefferson's going to have to reissue the touchdown zone elevation for that runway, but we won't talk about that.
all right, I've had a few of those, so that's good. It happens to the best of us, right? It happens to the best of
Yeah.
us, something like that. Cool. Well, I want to do a shout out to was it Blue Sky Radio? You did a podcast with him earlier, I believe, or Blue
Yes.
Star?
Yeah,
Yes, and
JT.
JT,
He's
yeah,
been a
and
friend for a long time.
awesome. So I did listen to that. That was really good. And it was really insightful. And I encourage anybody that's listening that if you want to really get the full history of PMDG, and there was a lot of stuff in there that I was unaware of, like the origins of how it actually started and development group. I got a kick out of that. How you put the G on the end of that to make it more official. That was great. And I guess I just want to start out with. Do you sim yourself, or are you mostly in the development managerial role, or do you actually do any simming yourself?
I do. So, I'm kind of the quintessential sim nerd. I mean, I've been I was thinking about this the other day. I started simming in 1982.
Oh, sh-
Um, I was in, I think, the sixth grade, and one of my schoolmates up the road, his parents had an Apple computer, and he told me one day, like, yeah, I've got this flight simulator. And of course, that just seemed like the wildest thing anybody had ever heard of. So, I hopped on my bike and went over to his house. And we goofed around with it. Somehow I talked him into loaning it to me. And me and another one of my friends, Brad and I used to sit in the back of Mr. Beale's English class at the Fenn School in Concord, Massachusetts, and we would get yelled at because it was right under the ILS to 11 at Bedford. And of course, every time an airplane flew over, Brad and I are in the back of the room, like,
oh yeah, yep.
so we got yelled at a lot. But Brad and I used to stay after school. We had Peter's disc with the original flight simulator for Apple.
Oh wow.
And we would stay after school and play with that. And then the next version came out fairly quickly, and that was the one where it had like the different scenery areas. I think that was the sub one. And so Brad and I we rode our bikes out to Hanscom Air Force Base, which is Bedford, and we talked somebody into giving us a Jeppesen low altitude planning chart. And we planned a whole flight from like Chicago Meigs to someplace, I think Martha's Vineyard. And we were there after school for hours. We did this all the time, and we'd fly the whole flight, and doing that in a Cherokee.
Yeah.
That's pretty serious business. But
Yeah.
it started that way, and I still do. I must confess, I don't sim as much now, partly because I really enjoy the development work.
Yeah.
And I find that I can't really sim with our products because I play a role as a developer. So if I'm working with the product and I notice something, well, out comes the debugger, and then
Right. Now you're yeah.
Then I've got like 9 screens of manuals and charts trying to figure out, was that right?
Yeah.
If I do sim, I generally will wind up, and actually you're a terrible influence. When I sim, I will, a lot of times I'll grab, like the 727 is a favorite of mine.
Oh yeah.
MD-80.
Yep.
And a lot of times I'll be watching what you're doing, and that will kind of influence, like, oh, I got a couple hours on Saturday. I'm gonna go do that.
Yeah.
By the way, I still have my interview questions for the board interview, or the board investigation for you flying into the hill down in Columbia.
Yeah, we'll get to that, I'm sure.
There's a whole section I still have to fill out about crew inattention.
Yes, distraction. Yeah, that all played a role, I'm sure.
So the image that you posted on that of the dude
just standing
that was classic.
Yeah, of course. I don't always crash, but when I do, I like to do it when Mr. PMDG is watching the stream live. So that was I ate that one. And I mean, I've done a lot of streams, and I I mean, we just flat out crashed that thing, man. We both boosted the engines, they blew out, and we were done. There was nothing to do. So that was a
But
shame.
what was funny though was I thought it was interesting to hear you were actually mildly horrified that it happened.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is interesting because I did that with our 737, like going back like 2 or 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually doing like a simming flight,
Mm-hmm.
and I misread an approach chart
Oh no.
and hit the top of a hill.
Oh jeez.
And it, I mean,
Yeah.
hey, I fly professionally.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
this ain't
It's
supposed to happen. I'm
right.
supposed to know how to read these things.
Yep.
And I was horrified by it.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard that same horror in your voice, and that pleased me as a former chief pilot,
Yeah.
because it told me that
Right.
you take this seriously. And
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you just kind of
um,
sit there like, wow, that just happened. That just happened.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But you were genuinely horrified that it
Yeah.
happened to you.
Yeah.
If it happens to like one of the other streamers that
Right.
we all watch,
Right.
something like that, it's like, well, he's a streamer, he's not
Right.
actually a pilot.
Exactly.
When
Exactly.
you and I do it, it's like, oh my god, I just killed
I-
everything. It's totally different level.
yes.
And I heard the horror in your voice, and I loved it.
Yeah.
So I dove right in there just to rub it in a
Yeah.
little bit, because
That's good.
not
Yeah. Well, hopefully we don't have any more of those. Hopefully we don't have any more of those in the near future.
right.
But yeah, I do encourage you to take the 727 there into Pasto. It's quite the approach, if you get a chance to
bet.
fly down in there. So,
Yeah.
jeez. So I gotta say, I've said this before, but so the 737 NG on 2004 FS9 was my first PMDG experience, and I think it was, man, I want to say I think I was still a teenager when that released, and I remember when that came out, I was immediately hooked because I had messed with planes before on the sim, but like there was nothing like this is a 737. Everybody's flying. Everyone knows what a 737 was, right? And when that released, that started to feed that little aviation bug in the back of my mind, and that progressed until my young adult years. And I want to play you something, which then definitively just set me on a path that is that I never looked back. So I want to play something for you here real quick. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So this is the FSX version
Yeah.
of the 737 that I first had that got me hooked. And then when I saw this trailer release, I watched this every day. I was still, I don't remember if I think I just left instructing or if I was flying freight just yet. But I think I was still instructing because I remember it almost seemed like, man, I want to go fly the real thing. And when I was feeling down or like burnt out from the instructor thing, I would come home and I'd fire this up and I'd play this video. And I was like, one day.
That is I haven't seen this in years.
Yeah, I'll let it play through. Yeah, it's.
What I love about this is it's very aspirational.
It is. It's 100%.
When you think back to where we were as a hobby at that point, this really was a game changer.
2010, right, for the FSX NGX?
We released that on August. We released the NGX on August 4th of 2011.
2011. Okay, yeah.
And there's a funny reason why I remember. We had so it was August 4th is my birthday.
Okay.
And for those of you that are running all the bank websites to see, I don't use that. Anyway, but we had been hard at work on that for some time, and it just it just rolled up to like, okay, well, we're either going to release this on my birthday or we're going to wait a couple of days. And my wife had planned like this really special outing and like, whatever. And I was just like, or it was the day before my birthday. I'm like, no, let's just go ahead and do it. And so we did. And I didn't make that dinner.
Real-
It was just, the website crashed and a
Yep.
whole bunch of other stuff. It was
Yep.
a lot more. Um, it generated a lot more traffic than we anticipated,
Yeah.
which is sort of a common backstory. We're really bad at estimating demand, apparently.
Yeah.
Um, but it was it was a fantastic product. It was really, I think, our first truly solid product, and something that we've been real
Hmm.
proud of. I'm thrilled that it helped
Yeah.
cement your
I mean,
interest.
when you people talk about nostalgia and video games and stuff, and it's not even, it's funny because it's not even the flying that I remember being nostalgic. It is that trailer video. 2011 makes sense now because I was right at the tail end of instructing, and I was getting ready. I was like, I need to get out. I want to go fly. The instructing to me felt like, while I enjoyed it, it felt like you're always practicing for the game. Right, you're always practicing. You go out, go to the practice area. You're teaching students, which is very important and crucial in the industry. But as the instructor, you want to get out and you want to take your skills that you've learned and really test them, right? Like I can teach instrument approaches all day long, but I want to go fly that instrument approach down the minimums for a mission, flying whatever it's cargo, whatever it may be, right? Getting passengers in on an airliner. So that when that video released, I just remember feeding off of that I probably watched it. I mean, probably close to 1,000 times. I mean, I had it saved on my desktop, and I would watch it all the time. And that one, I was hooked. And I want to go back just real quick because you said it's your first solid product. I have a question about you may know this. I love all airplanes that have more than 2 engines. So the PMDG MD-11, which came out before the NGX, I believe, right? Because
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, that came out in October of 2008.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Because I remember crashing that thing a ton trying to learn the MD-11. But
I need to open another Board of Inquiry report.
yeah,
Hang on, I want to run out of file folders.
yeah, yeah. That one was a struggle to learn because I had no idea. It wasn't like anything else. I mean, an MD-11 was like half Airbus is maybe, but some Boeing in there. And but I thought that was a really solid product, and it kind of seemed like it phased out, and it never returned. And was it just kind of a popularity thing with the MD-11, or did it just kind of go by the wayside on the PMDG side of things?
Yeah, that product was released kind of during a tough transition period for us. We were, we had made a couple of what we call legacy products. That we discovered that the way we were developing things just wasn't going to work, and we kind of had to clean sheet some things. And the MD-11 sort of took place in the beginning of that transition. So it was a really solid product. Bill Grabowski and Michael Franciskakis, who had started that project on their own, and then they joined our team with the project. It took a really long time to get that project finished. And it really was quite good. I mean, at its time, I would argue it was probably one of the best large airline simulators out there.
Yeah.
And there is a really passionate following of people who love that airplane. I grew up flying around on DC-10s. I've got a 3-engine fetish. I think you'll know that. I thought the MD-11 was pretty darn cool. It was fun to fly. It was fun to sim with. It was fun to develop. What came out of it was an economic reality that taught us some lessons about what PMDG was going to become, and that was that we can make products that are really, really good, but if people don't want them, you're hurting yourself. And as we have gone through, there's a fair accusation that we basically make 3 airplanes. We're now building version 4 of our 737,
right,
which is magnificent.
Yeah.
I mean,
we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Trust me.
But we're building version 4 of our 747, which is even more magnificent. And 777, we just did version 3 on. And people say, well, like, why do you guys do the same thing over and over again? It's like, well, because every time we finish with the repertoire, like about the time we add the next one, they go and give us a new platform that is so much nicer, and our customers really like. They want us to drag them forward.
Yes,
so we
yes.
do. With the MD-11, the customer base simply wasn't there, And and that may be different now. With TFDI, they're
Hmm.
building a really nice product, and I hope they have
Yes.
tremendous economic success with it. We simply didn't,
Right.
and it might have just been the time window where that
Hmm.
fit into in simming. That was a really hard period of time.
Yeah.
FSX was been abandoned. P3D didn't really exist yet. People were leaving the hobby in droves. I mean, those
Yeah.
were the worst. That was the worst economic period in
Hmm.
our history.
Okay.
If we built another one today, would it sell like
Yes.
mad?
Yes, it would.
Well, see, so I know which fan base you're in. But the reality is, for us, there's just not an economic incentive to
Right.
do that one.
Understandable.
So
Yeah. Does
yeah.
I've from a consumer standpoint, when you see, so consumer obviously being myself, so from your perspective as head of a company that creates these products, when you see other companies working on an aircraft, does that affect if you're going to pursue that route or not? Or maybe like would that, I guess, like market saturation, right? If there's somebody making an airplane, maybe you had a thought of doing an airplane, does that come into play as a developer?
To some extent, the team, um, we we have a really really good Boeing
Hmm.
code library. I mean, if there's a piece of equipment on a Boeing airplane, we've coded it at this
Yeah.
point.
Right.
So that makes it really easy for us to build things. And starting that over and doing an Airbus would be incredibly difficult.
Hmm.
However, a good portion of our team, like 80% of it, is European based. And for 2 decades,
Hmm.
when I hit that, we operate on a 5-year plan. And when I hit the point in the 5-year plan where I'm like, I wonder what we're going to do next, I get browbeat with the
Yeah.
Airbus thing. Um, but that being said, if we had decided 10 years ago or 5
Hmm.
years ago that yeah, we're gonna do an A320,
Hmm.
wow. There's a lot of them out there, and
Yeah, there
there's a
is.
lot
Yes.
of really good competitors in that
Yeah.
market. So we have been very fortunate.
Hmm.
But we do have competition, and I think it's funny that I I take this as a compliment that people think we don't have competition. We do.
Hmm.
We have a very recognizable brand. We've worked
Absolutely.
very hard to
Yeah.
achieve that.
Gold standard.
And
I would definitely argue with PMDG from the very beginning. I mean, going back to the MD-11, the originals NG, the NGX, of course. I mean, PMDG has always been the bar. Like that is where everything gets compared to PMDG. So absolutely.
including PMDG.
Again,
Um,
yes,
you know,
yes.
and it's funny because I would disagree that we've always been the bar. We, I'm very proud of the work we do.
Hmm.
I think we do an exceptionally good job.
Hmm.
I think we really struggled with the transition into Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Hmm. That,
We were exceptionally good in the FSS in the
hmm.
original instantiations of Flight Sim. We were really good in prepared. We were just hitting our stride in prepared, where we were starting to really click, and then Microsoft Flight Simulator came around, and it was like getting hit in the face with a 2x4. I don't know what that is in metric for your European listeners, but anyway, a cricket bat.
A
We'll
cricket
use a
bat. There
cricket
you go. That's good. Yeah.
bat. Um, and we really struggled. We're now coming out of a 5-year reimagination process of what we are and what we do.
Hmm.
We in prepared world, it was sufficient to create a highly, highly, highly accurate technical simulation of the airplane. You didn't need to worry about the cabin or
Right.
the
Yeah.
iPad or
Oh yeah.
whatever. Sounds could be
Yep.
mediocre. Nobody expected the level of expectation was the airplane should behave exactly like the airplane.
Yes.
There should be a million different failures I can do.
Hmm.
If it doesn't look that great, that's fine.
Yep.
I'm in my mid 70s anyway, and I
Yeah.
need my
Yeah.
glasses are fuzzy.
We're all flying
But
around
nobody,
in 10 FPS too. It's like it was 10, 15 F.
yeah,
If you had 15 FPS, that was a good thing. Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
yeah. And so when and we had been through multiple generational changes in the flight sim platform. So when Microsoft Flight Simulator got announced, we took our existing experience and applied it to what that transition was going to be, and we were wrong.
There was
And
something about an EFB like not being in the 7.3. I vaguely remember something about that. I don't know if you.
yeah, so the EFB that was in our 7.3 in prepared was the Boeing brick.
Hmm.
You can find them if you go to FBOs. You'll occasionally see them propping doors
Yeah.
open during the course. Um, and it was clunky. It worked, but it was
Right.
clunky, and it
Yeah.
whatever. And it was unglamorous, and it was the best technology that 1995 could buy. So when we were watching, as we were getting late in the development of the 737 for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, we started to really, about that time, other peer developers, most of them new developers to the Microsoft Flight Simulator marketplace, or to that ecosphere,
Hmm.
were starting to release products, and we were looking at them and saying, well, why did they waste all their time on an EFB?
Yeah.
Like literally, like that's
Yeah.
how we were
Yeah.
literally having that conversation in house. And it was basically, if you could picture the conversation that took place on the bridge of Titanic, like, well, why can't we see any stars right there? Because the iceberg was blocking it
Right.
all. We didn't realize how significant the change
Hmm.
was. And when we did start to realize it, we were in so close to release. We were like, you know what, we're going to put this EFB into this airplane, and it's going to stand out as these guys don't care. So we thought it would be better to simply take the EFB out and start working on a new one.
Hmm.
We thought that process would be quick. And we, of course, this is also a PMDG habit that I'm not fond of. We discovered for Microsoft and Asobo that there were problems in the communication channels between doing the EFB in a script-based language and doing the airplane in C++.
Hmm.
And we had to wait for the platform to catch up so we could connect the dots. And and meanwhile, in the background, what nobody saw was the political tension that went on between PMDG and Asobo and Microsoft, because we're getting yelled at in real time on the internet, and
Oh yeah.
we want to say to people, well, hey, these two need to connect the dots so that we can do
Right.
the work.
Right.
But if I say that, it looks like I'm blaming them, or I'm
Hmm.
blaming them, and then of course we're working in partnership with
Right.
them, so I
Right.
don't want to go out there saying, like, they did us dirty.
Oh yeah.
There was all this stuff going on in the background, and meanwhile, in the public face of
Yeah.
PMDG, I literally have to sit there and say, yes, we're working on it.
That's
It's
right.
going
That's
really
good.
well. There's ladies and gentlemen, we've got both engines on the right wing are
Hmm.
on fire. The great news is we're going to be on time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It was a challenging period, and and I don't think people realize that a lot of times I have to be very careful what I say.
Oh,
And sometimes the
absolutely.
things that I want to say would be grossly unfair,
Hmm.
and wrong. Um, so that EFB thing was a real challenge, because we knew what was going on, and it was hard for us to communicate it without seeming like we were casting blame. The reality was, we were coming into Microsoft Flight Simulator with a well-established development process, a well-established code base, and it took us some time to figure out how to use the tools in Microsoft Flight Simulator, because they were so different than what we had worked with before.
Hmm.
And it really required a reinvention of a lot of stuff.
Right.
And we were a tiny team that was very well parceled out. We knew exactly who was going to do what on every single project, when they would do it, how they would do it, and all the rules changed. And the team right now is 5 times larger than we
Oh
were back
wow.
then.
Oh wow.
Um,
Wow.
and we've got a lot of different personalities and a lot of different skill sets.
Hmm.
We're this transition. Companies either fail in a moment of transition or they succeed.
Hmm.
I don't think we're finished with the transition, but I'm pretty comfortable now that we won't fail.
Right.
We've learned some hard lessons, and we've listened to a lot. We've had wonderful conversations with our customers,
Mhm.
and this 737 that's coming out, it's not the ultimate. It is a trend. It's still, part of the transition from 2020 to 2024.
Mhm.
It's 1,000 times better than what we have in 2020.
Right.
and it'll be 90% as good as the 747 that's coming after it,
Oh,
because the
wow.
747 is a clean sheet specifically for 24. So
Okay.
there's
Very
so
cool.
there's still some pretty cool stuff coming.
So I wanted to, on the topic of that in 2020 and 2024. I think we all, as simmers, we kind of learned the difference between day one it'll be compatible with 2024 all your versus actually working in 2024. So my question is, what has it been like? And as much as you can explain, I'm sure it is fine. What's it? How do I word this? I'm assuming it's different working in 2024 versus 2020, or at least more different than maybe most developers would expect out of the gate. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, it's a lot nicer.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, the folks at Asobo learned a lot with 2020. The folks at the leadership at Microsoft learned a lot with 2020, and they applied those lessons to 24. There's a whole political argument that goes on about was it released too soon and all that kind of stuff, and I'll steer clear of that, because A, I don't care, and B, it doesn't matter what I think.
Right.
But the reality is the tools that we work with, as they have grown and improved over the past year, I can get more done in a set period of time working in 2024 than I can get done in 2020. And
wow.
as a developer, that's a big deal.
Absolutely.
To give you a frame of reference, there's software development techniques and tools that we used in the prepared days that would allow me to watch values and variables in real time in the airplane. So if I'm working on a really complex dynamic system like pressurization, to be able to capture and modify behaviors to tune them when you're starting to talk about the blowing the backup valve at max diff at 360. In order to test that and tune it, I need to get the airplane into that scenario, run the pressure through the roof, do all that kind of stuff to get it set up, and then I can work with it as it's all going on. In prepared, I could set up a window where I could be watching all of the values related to it, the sense pressure inside the relief valve, the valve itself, the tension of the spring, how much it's compressed. I mean, I could watch all of that stuff in real time.
Yeah.
In 2020, not only could we not see it, if I saw something and I'm like, oh, you know what, that value is wrong. Instead of that spring having, this many foot-pounds of torque, it should have, this much. If I wanted to change that, I had to close the flight, exit back out, modify the code.
Oh, geez.
So something that would take me, and this is going to sound like I'm speaking, I'm in hyperbole, and I'm not. Something that would take me 5 seconds in prepared would take me 20 minutes in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. Yeah. So I would describe that as mildly frustrating for a developer. So we had to spend a lot of time building our own debugging tools so that we could debug complex systems in real time. And that was not a lot of fun. Those tools already exist. They exist in the debugging tools that are used by industries the world over to debug software. So why can't we just connect these?
Right. Oh man.
In 2024, we're still not there. We're not. I don't have it back to the 5 seconds, but I probably got it into about 3 minutes or so.
Okay. So that's substantially better. Yeah.
Substantially better. Still massively inefficient.
Right.
But it's getting there. And we have, what has happened is, humans are wonderfully adaptive creatures. If you hurt them enough in a certain way, they'll change their behavior. So we have enough bruises. So we have changed the way we develop, and literally it's changed the way we code so that we can convince the debugging tools that we have to show us the data we need. So while we're not really back to where we were, we've gotten pretty close. And then once we get things dialed in, then we'll change the code so that it is more efficient, so that, whatever, once it's locked in. So there's a lot of craziness and wasted effort that goes on, but I mean, we're talking about an incredibly complex sim platform,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
and I honestly don't even feel any longer that it should be Microsoft and Asobo's top priority to give us these tools that we
Hmm.
want. We're close enough right now that I'm okay with them fixing other stuff.
Right. Right. Is there
Because
anything? Is there anything off the top of your mind that you would like prioritized? I guess in terms of what would help you out as a developer, in terms of either tools or parts of the sim that need improvement from your end.
I mean, hey, if I could have everything I want, that would be fun.
Yeah.
But if I could have everything I want, I would really like, real-time debugging tools.
Yeah.
They've given us, again, they've given us like 90% of it, but that last 10% is a big deal to
Yes.
us
Yeah.
because what we do is so complicated. Um, in the sim itself, I think the number one thing that I wrestle with, the number one thing that causes me to spew expletives in the course of my day is the interaction between the airplane and the ground.
Okay. Yeah. Ground handling.
Whether it's steering,
Mm-hmm.
side loading on the tires,
Mm-hmm.
braking, acceleration forces. What we have is better than what we had in Prepared or FSX.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just
Right. It's
state
better.
that
Definitely.
clearly.
Yeah.
But everything else in Microsoft Flight Simulator there's so many superlatives you can
Mm-hmm.
attach to it, and then you get to this one thing, and I
Mm-hmm.
start to just like fire comes out of my eyes because I do this in the real world, and I know
Right.
what this is feel like. And I watch simmers. I mean, other guys who know what they're doing, like
Mm-hmm.
you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can
Allegedly.
see you. Well,
Yeah.
we'll get back to the recording later.
Yeah.
But I see you land the airplane, and I can tell immediately when the Microsoft Flight Simulator ground
Mm-hmm.
kicks in, because all of a sudden it's like you're landing on an ice and water coated runway, and the
Mm-hmm.
things left and right.
Yep.
And I don't think that most simmers realize that you and I don't deal with that in the real world.
Right.
That planes are much
Yeah.
more predictable, and
Absolutely.
and they're sort of aggressively docile.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
You can abuse them a little bit.
Yeah.
They won't betray you.
Yeah.
And in Microsoft Flight Simulator, you get it you get it wrong, and you're
You're going off the runway.
Yeah, and,
Yeah.
and then I get another report.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
It's I would love to have a true. We have some metrics that we can play with that mimic rolling friction, side
Mm-hmm.
load friction, the coefficient of friction between different surfaces and stuff like that, but they're not actually those physics models.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a math and physics nerd,
Mm-hmm.
and I've spent a lot of time trying to build our own.
Oh wow.
And unfortunately, the sim fights us on that. So we stopped wasting dev time on that
Mm-hmm.
because I'm certain at some point Microsoft will drop an update that will improve this stuff. And then if I go and invest $90,000 worth of dev time into into this, then we've just burned that up into smoke. So so that's really kind of like, that would be if Jorg called me and said, Rob, you can have one wish, what would it be? That would be my wish.
Ground handling. I think that's a very popular one. I think a lot of people are starting to at least catch on, when other pilots are flying the sim and they say, yeah, this isn't right, or that wouldn't do that, or like, I mean, I do an outside view for 3 seconds and the airplane is going into the dirt and they're like, oh, this guy's a real pilot. Sure. I'm like, okay, well, that wouldn't really happen. Okay. But let me get my little springed rudder pedals back down here to try to keep dancing on the center line. But yeah, I think that is a very popular request from a lot of us that fly the sim pretty regularly. So
one of the things that really frustrates me is there's a misconception by the platform developer as to what the steering tiller is and what it does. And they someone did them wrong by telling them, I'm guessing somebody who flew either an Airbus or Dassault product was their advisor on what the tiller does. So they created that.
Yeah.
And Boeing and a lot of other, biz jets not manufactured in Europe are something else entirely. So so I approached Asobo and was like, hey, I love the tiller, great work.
I got about 4 of them around here. Yeah.
Yeah, but on the Boeing airplane, we've got a rudder interconnect between the rudder pedals and the steering mechanism, so that I can throw the rudder pedal and I'll get 7 degrees of nose wheel steering only.
Hmm.
And the nice thing is I can throw it halfway and I'll get 3.5 degrees. So it's really nice for
Hmm.
maintaining center line, while taxiing, but also on the takeoff
Yeah.
roll, if you've got a mild wind, I mean it's a piece of cake. It's a hero
Yeah.
maker.
Yeah.
Um, and that way you don't have to sit there, holding on to the tiller the entire time, because that gets tiring.
Hmm.
So, and the other thing is there is a steering control mixing valve, so that if I'm turning the tiller and I'm also using the rudder pedal, those play together to
Yes.
create the final steering input. Um, so if we try to do that programmatically in Microsoft Flight Simulator, it it fights with the sim.
Hmm.
The sim tries to say, well, hey, I've got rudder pedal input, but you're also doing tiller input, so the tiller input must be what you want, so it overrides the
Overrides.
other.
Yep.
And so I've tried to explain to them, like, hey, please, 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 please,
Yeah.
give these to me as separate channels and allow me to do the mixing.
Right.
And I haven't gotten a yes yet on
Okay.
that. So,
Yeah.
which is why it's so frustrating, because like all the airplanes that we build,
Right.
I really want separate channels for those, because then I
Yes.
can give users a true to life experience. And right now we've got this sort of twitchy thing that,
Right.
because the sim is
Understandable.
always trying,
Yeah.
monkey
Yep.
with us.
Yeah. Yeah. I
It's,
know. Tillering has been a hot discussion of, or at least a hot topic discussion in my channels. I mean, we've got developers now or manufacturers making tillers for the airplanes and stuff. So seeing an improvement in that would be huge. I totally agree across the sim. I actually don't know what a 737 taxi's like yet. So, I mean, maybe by the time I do, maybe it'll be something I can train with with the new NGX. So, or the new,
Yeah.
is it an NGX, the new 2024?
No,
It's
no,
just the NG.
NGX was
That
the
was for
flight-
FSX. It's done. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And then so this is the 737 NG for Microsoft Flight Simulator
2024. Okay.
Totally different brand.
All right.
Yep.
Out of curiosity, would I be able, or would anybody be able to train procedures on this 737 that's coming for 2024? Is it going to be a good procedural trainer?
The lawyers tell
Yeah.
me that I absolutely am not allowed to answer that question as an affirmative, because we are very careful and specific about the end user license agreement, that our retail software products cannot be used in a training environment.
Right.
And the reason for that is that there might be subtle differences, and you're
Yeah.
a type rated guy.
Yeah.
You've flown airplanes. Negative learning is a big deal.
Yes.
So there's a lot to that legally. So the answer to that question, my corporate counsel would tell you absolutely not. So let's talk about the reality of simming. There's a lot of us that we sim because we love the hobby and we
Right.
love flying and we like everything about it, and then we hop in the jet in the real world and we go fly.
Yep.
When you get your 737 books, are you going to be able to sit down with it and go through your books and enhance your learning by working with a living version of the airplane? Of course you are. That actually is where PMDG kind of got started.
Yeah.
I always had this vision that one day we would turn the industry on its head with training tools to make things better. I was tired of going to type school. I mean, I went to get my 7.4 type. I walked in, there was a stack of things in a paper poster.
Yeah,
It was like,
the paper
really?
tigers. Oh yeah, yeah.
People kidding?
Yeah.
But we are now part of that change. It's very different than what I envisioned when we first had the idea back when we did our original NG. But in 2005, I made a presentation to Boeing where I thought that they had just done an interview in Aviation Week where the director of Alteon had said that if we could shave a day off the training footprint for airline pilots, it would save the industry $1 billion or $8 billion or whatever.
Absolutely.
It was. And I was looking at our tool and saying, hey, if I'm going to school to fly a 7.3 and my company gives me this and I can do all this studying at home where it's a low threat environment and I'm not like worried about a schedule and I'm not jet lagged and trying to stay awake in class because instructors are boring and all the other problems that that befall pilots going through type school. People would come into the simulator more well prepared to operate the airplane, specifically the FMS and switch flow, flows and things like that.
Yep.
They would come into the simulator more well prepared, and then maybe that day or two that gets saved, where you're about to do it, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like those first couple of days in the sim where you're like, where is that?
Yes, huge. Yeah. Yep.
You waste so much time trying to find buttons the first couple of days. If you could turn that into productive time, then maybe we could use that time to look at things like, okay, so let's talk about some things that are going wrong through, FOCA programs in the real world. Here's where guys are getting into trouble. They're scrubbing nose wheels. Here's where guys are going over the end of the runway. Here's how to recognize you've got too much energy at 300 feet and you probably need to go around. Here's all the judgment stuff. Don't get to teach you because the footprint is so compressed and we're so focused on getting you to dance monkey dance, push the buttons in the right order, and now okay, graduate, go to the line. Maybe we can take some time and teach you some judgment skills. And so we made this presentation in 2005, and literally I got laughed out of it. Long story short, we made that presentation a couple of times, and each time we made it, the laughter was a little bit different.
Less.
And Boeing on its own, Boeing they've been through some rough waters. And I'm not going to comment on, who or why or who's to blame or any of that stuff again, because I don't care. And my opinion doesn't matter. But along that pathway, Boeing came to the realization that if they were to invest in that technology along those lines, that they would get that result. And I want to state really clearly that Boeing didn't listen to little old PMDG and suddenly have a great idea. Boeing is an extremely skilled corporation, and they reached this conclusion on their own.
Yes.
And they invested an absurd sum of money to make it happen. And they are working on tools that I don't know if legally I can describe what the tool will do and exactly how it will be marketed. But what I can say is they came to us for some technology that they felt would shorten their development timeline to get them a ready product in the market so that they could start to work with their customers on it. And they announced it at the Dubai Air Show a couple of weeks ago. I've been exchanging emails with the dev team leads there on, we manufactured, a part on their airplane. The work is theirs, and the technology investment is theirs and stuff. We had the skills to do this one piece that would benefit them. And dang it, I'm proud of the fact.
Absolutely.
I read on Friday night, I got a really, really nice thank you email from the head of the team there. And I read it to our team, and it's pretty darn cool. We little old PMDG and
feels good. It's got to feel good.
Something that's being used like this. So, but the fun part about that is that the technology that we provided to them is embedded in the 737 that's about to come out. And it's we have always prided ourselves in technically accurate products, and I think where we sort of took bruises in the transition to Microsoft Flight Simulator was that used to be okay, as I was saying earlier, and that we didn't really catch up on some of the we call them gameplay items. Putting a bobblehead in the corner that you can put the head on.
A clicky pen.
Right. Yeah. Right. We ignored all that stuff. And it took us a little while to start to realize, like, hey, a lot of customers are coming from the gaming community, and these things are important, and we should do this. So that when you get this 737 and you compare it to the one in 2020, it's night and day. There's so much stuff you can do beyond just the stick and rudder skills. But at the core of it, you still get that PMDG technology. I would argue that we make the most technically accurate core airplane simulation that is available out there. And I say that from a standpoint of a fair amount of knowledge of how much documentation we digest into this stuff. And I would argue that the manufacturer agrees.
That's good to have on your side. Then they're good to have on your side because that's they're pretty
Most people
vetted.
would say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of on the side note, how did you come up with Precision Manuals Development Group? What was the, I know about the group part, but where did Precision Manuals, how'd that come into play for PMDG?
So, so I was going broke. I worked in airline management at the time. I was still building flight time, and I had two goals in life. One was never to be an instructor, and two was never to fly the 737. So thus far, I am 2 for 2.
2 for 2, yeah.
So anyway, I had a pretty heavyweight management job at United Airlines, and I didn't have the time to instruct. So to build time, I had to buy it, and that was just the way it was going to be.
Yeah.
And it was expensive because I was in airline management, so I was not getting rich.
Yeah.
And there was a fellow by the name of Hardy Heinlein out of Germany. He had written a DOS-based simulator, 747 PS1, which it was.
Yeah, I know what you're going. Yeah.
So me and a bunch of other nerds just like me congregated in this weird spot on the internet, and we were all trying to figure out how to make this thing run. And Hardy's software was technically superior, but it was really targeted toward the training environment where people they had the documentation and they already knew how the thing worked, and they could practice their procedures and that sort of stuff. So I decided, you know what, we're all trying to figure out how to make this thing work. So I called some buddies that worked out at the training center in Denver and said, hey, put me on the schedule. I'm coming out and I need you to teach me how to fly the airplane. Because, when you have a Saturday free and 4 hours of sim time, you can learn that, right? So, so I went out, and I also was very fortunate. A dear friend of mine, a mentor of mine, was one of United's first 747-400 type rating instructors.
Oh, wow.
So, so he pushed a ton of books at me, which I hauled home in a carry-on, and so I sat down and started to digest all of this information into a book that other guys like me could, so you didn't have to go to type rating school. You could, you could use this instead. It was sort of a simplified version.
Yeah.
And I needed about $3,000 to finish my, I think it was my multi-engine rating at the time. I needed like $3,000 to finish it. So I'm like, okay, well, I figure I'll probably sell, 60 of them. So they're going to be $50 a piece. Like that's
it. Done.
Decision, and wound up selling like 1,000 of them.
Wow.
It was nuts.
Wow.
And so I was assembling these things on the kitchen floor of my little 300 square foot apartment, and it was crazy. And then so I needed a name, and I mean, I don't know, so. I sort of borrowed the naming concept from the software that it was for, because there was no vision beyond this project.
Right.
This was a one and done. As soon as I get this credit card paid off, I'm back to flying. I'm
right.
Done. So it was precision. It was Precision Manuals Development. Like literally, I'm developing a manual. The most boring name ever. And I joke about it all the time that like some dude made a comment. I had posted something about it, and some dude was like, well, it can't possibly be any good if it's just some, just like this one guy in his mother's basement making a manual. And I'm like, okay, I'm in my mother's basement. I'm a fully, accredited adult. I have an apartment. It's only 300 square feet, but I'm working on it. And so I just decided I need to make it sound like there's more than just me. So I just added group.
And
it would be like, it was a solid 2 years before there was anybody other than me. And then I just I had this thing, and people were excited about it. And then I had always tinkered on the side. I mean, since I was in high school, I had tinkered with flight models and stuff in Microsoft Flight Simulator, and I had made panels on my own, and I just kind of decided, well, maybe I'll bundle some of these things up and sell them. And I had made a bunch of flight models for the 707, because I've got a classic
Mm-hmm.
airplane thing, and
Mm-hmm.
I just thought that would be kind of cool, and so I
Yeah.
just started selling those for like $1.99 or something like that. And one of the dudes who bought it emailed me, and he said basically something along the lines of like, this is a very solid effort on your part. It's clear that you have passion. What you lack is knowledge. Perhaps I can help you.
Mm-hmm.
And that guy, Dr. Vaus, he is still our chief engineer.
Nice.
Like he's been here now. This will be his next year will be his 25th year.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, and he's, I mean, guys like a brother to me. We've
Yeah.
seen each other through raising kids and sending kids
Yeah.
off to college and all the other stuff you go through. And dear friend, love him like a brother.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I mean, he and I sit here late at night working, and we will get into the most esoteric. Literally last night, we were creating the mathematical logic for the change in pressure in the cabin of the 737 if two toilets get flushed simultaneously versus just one. And how does that register on the
Oh
cabin pressure?
jeez. Wow.
PSI? And literally, like, we're building the mathematical model
Yeah.
for this. So
Yeah.
we work on some really crappy things sometimes.
Pun
But
intended.
he and I take each other on with details like,
Yeah. Okay.
hey, if you go through this, this schematic diagram, it says that this should change by, 0.3 amps when this gets turned on. Why didn't you do that? No, I'm not, like for
Yeah.
4 nights, the 0.3.
Trying to get the 0.3 amps. Yeah. Something that
But-
like the simmers will just probably casually breeze by, right? But it's those that want to pay attention. That's what makes the difference between, just an airplane that you turn on at face value, and then actually when you turn that battery switch on, it's a living, breathing simulation behind those panels. And that, there is a market for that, and I definitely include myself in that. I mean, it's huge. It's a different feeling when because you've seen that 0.3 amp change over here. When I flip this on now, why am I drawing so many amps, or what's happening with that? That there's more simulation going on, and that makes the experience completely different than just flying like a Project Open Sky like 777 mod on top of a. But Project Open Sky was awesome in the FSX days.
Yep.
But yes, you're
But what
absolutely.
I want is like, so, you'll go to type school, which will make you the least qualified 737 driver in the world.
Absolutely.
But I don't think a lot of swimmers don't realize that. Like when you come out of type school, you're just
You know nothing.
like,
What?
I mean, the trees have been going by really fast, and you have, you gotta, I mean, it's generally, I find about like when I get about 12 to 1500 hours in type, that's when I really feel
Start
like,
to
okay,
understand
now I
things.
got
Yeah.
this.
Yep.
And so when you get there, what I want in our product is, let's fast forward, 2 years, and you've got 1,500, 200, 2,000 hours in type, that you'll be messing around on your stream with our 7.3, and you're going to see our simulator do something, and you're going to go, that is exactly what the airplane does. It's some little thing.
Yep.
Because the system is fully modeled underneath it.
Yes.
So, whether it's the flicker of a needle or a light that flashes briefly during a state change or, whatever, if we model it correctly, all that stuff is there. It's not like we're sitting there creating like, we'll make this thing flash for an eighth of a second. Like literally the system, if it's built correctly,
that'll
it will
happen.
do that.
Yep.
And that's really what we're after. And
That's
so
awesome.
And that's what we want. We want that technical superiority in the core product, but we also really want, that there's so Vangelis said to me one day, we were having a conversation about like, how do we describe this? And he said, look, you can buy a 1997 Honda Accord with 400,000 miles on it, and you can buy a Rolls Royce. Both of them will take you to the grocery store.
Yes.
But if you've ever driven a Rolls Royce, it's much better than the 1997 Honda Accord with 5,000 miles on it. You might not be able to explain why, but you know
why.
And so we want to be the Rolls Royce, so that when you don't have to be a guy like us, you can be a gamer coming into this from, you like airplanes and you want to fly one around, and if you fly our airplane, it will be really cool, and it will do all kinds of stuff that allows you to really enjoy it. But then if you grow and you're like, hey, I want to make a career of this, in a couple of years.
Yeah.
There was a thing that I said almost by accident when I was talking to our team about what we had just accomplished. And I said, with this thing with Boeing, if you look at PMDG products, we are the only company out there. You could be a gamer who literally just picked up an Xbox controller and Microsoft Flight Simulator, knows nothing about airplanes, and we can carry you through the entire trajectory to you becoming a senior captain at a 121 international air carrier, flying the 737 or the 777 or whatever on international routes with hundreds of people behind you, and our software can cover you through that entire trajectory uninterrupted.
Yes.
That's kind of extraordinary.
It's extraordinary. Yeah. And I would put myself, I mean, I'm not kidding when I say it. I've fed off those videos. I fed off the original NG and the FS9 and then the NGX. I mean, it was people ask me all the time, well, I want to get into flying, should I get the 737, the PMDG? I'm like, I mean, you're not going to get typed on these airplanes in a simulator world like this, but it's going to carry you and it's going to prepare you. And then circling back to when you said about being more efficient when you actually get there. So let's say you feed off Microsoft Flight Simulator and you're loving the NG and you're flying it. And now it's time. You've done your flight instructor and whatever it may be, and you're going to go to a simulator and get typed. That confidence in knowing, okay, this switch is actually, it's a guarded switch. So the flip comes up, this comes down versus, okay, what is that? How do I manipulate that switch? Or this switch is locked, you have to toggle, whatever it may be. And seeing the manipulators and knowing where it is in the cockpit, in the 3D cockpit, and being able to find it with your eyes and then going and sitting in the box to go do it for real, you're going to be able to absorb more of your real training because you've already accomplished all those little nuanced, very basic items of where things are going to be. And then you carry that further where, like you're saying, with the fully simulated NG, now you're going to say, okay, so if I do this, I can expect the bleed valve is going to do this, or the packs are going to do this, or my bleed pressure is going to do this, whatever it may be. So, I mean, it's that's why I was so excited to do this interview. I mean, this is like full circle for me. I mean, I originally started, I would argue to say that the 737 from in FS9 is what kind of changed my trajectory. I always wanted to be a helicopter pilot. My dad was in Vietnam, and I always wanted to be a medevac pilot on a UH-1 Huey. That was the goal. And then, the 737 came out. I'm like, well, this is kind of cool. I'll get all the buttons and flying. And I'd be flying on 73s to go see grandma, grandpa, whatever. I'm like, oh, this was kind of cool, And then actually I went down the corporate rabbit hole a little bit. I'm like, well, this is cool. And then NGX video drops, and I'm like, yeah, that's it. That's all I want to do is fly the NGX, and I'm going to play that video every day. So, yeah, it really is. You're absolutely right, and it's super exciting. I guess my follow-up question is, will the 737 in 2024 release before I have 2,000 hours on type?
Oh, heck yes.
Okay.
It'll release. It will release before you do your type ride.
Okay. All right. Well,
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that you made me think of when you're talking about like the switches and stuff, another area that I think our software really helps is, I always refer to them as sort of like the moment of crisis in the box. You've got everything set up, everything's all pre-briefed. You're wrapping around the corner into the approach, and ATC suddenly just says, those guys are having too easy a day. Let's throw them the curveball. And you get a change of arrival, you get a crossing restriction that makes no sense, and then you get some wacky intercept to final, and they give it to you all in one thing. And so the guy sitting next to you is trying to regurgitate this out into his microphone, and he can't even get it the first time. So now the instructor or the controller's talking 3 times faster, which just makes it easier.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, you're trying to hand jam this into the FMS.
Yes.
That is a moment of crisis.
Yes, it is.
And it happens to us all the time. I mean, I don't care how many hours you have in the airplane. It happens. And you just like, all of a sudden the stress level goes from here to there and then back. And that moment is when familiarity with those menus in the structure of the routes and how to edit them quickly, that's where that comes into play, so that you can make it look like you were a pro.
Right.
And I find that our software helps me manage those things because I'll be like goofing around with it, and if I'm like simming, and I'll be like, oh, you know what, no, I want to go and do this for this runway or whatever, and I'm like ding 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 ding.
Boom.
then somebody gives that to me in the real world. I've done it before. So while
Mm-hmm.
she's trying to regurgitate the instructions we just got, I'm sitting there just bling,
Blink,
we're
done.
good.
We're good to go. Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Exactly.
that's
That's a
where
great
our
feeling.
stuff really help,
Yes.
especially in the training environment. So like this is an advantage
Mm-hmm.
that I think a guy like you will have because
Mm-hmm.
you've been a simmer, so you've messed with this stuff.
Right.
So when you get that moment of crisis, because the sim
Yeah.
instructors always, they always goof up.
Yeah.
And then you get the, oh no, I meant you to go to 2-4 right, and you're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and then you can just like,
Yeah.
click, shoot a
Done.
line out from
Should
the
I? Yeah.
outer
I just learned to do
space.
that the other day, actually, on the 7.3. So that's good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like those sorts of things, how
Yeah.
to use the box
Yes.
to lower your workload
Mm-hmm.
versus looking at it and going, oh,
What do I do now? Yeah. Meanwhile, you're flying off at 250 knots in the wrong direction. He's like, no, turn left, turn left. Direct Jalto, 3,000. Like, it's like, oh.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you.
So anyway, it'll be fun to hear it'll be fun to hear your perspective when you're done.
Yeah.
Did our 7.3 help you with that?
Yes.
So
Yeah, I've already got the stream title ready. It'll be the most unqualified 737 pilot live after typewriting, and the 737 NG. I'll make sure to do a full review, and I'll say, "Oh, this is not this right, and this is not this right." I'm sure everybody will love that. So
that'll be fun.
They love that clickbait. I guess I have one more question. So you have 3-engine fetish as well as me. You like classic airplanes. There's 727 Falcons. Yeah, anything?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It'd be right up PMDG's alley. You never know.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Although I will say I am extremely excited for the 7.4, so I don't want to discount because I am very, very excited. I plan to take that around the world. So virtually.
So so what's coming next? So we've made some strategic changes. I mentioned that like we kind of work on a 5-year window, and we're just wrapping up the write up for the next 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the questions that I have been wrestling with is the titular figurehead of the company. Why are we so darn slow?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why does it take us so long?
Right.
Like we seem to lose traction almost between projects.
Mm-hmm.
And like, how do we fix this?
Mm-hmm.
And we spent a lot of time in self-analysis, and a lot of time talking to members of the team and key members of the team, and like, hey, just like give me perspective, like where are we? And we as a team really reached the conclusion that we were trying to do too many things at once, and so too many product lines in development, too much. We're trying to wrap our arms around a whole lot of stuff because it's exciting and it's fun and it's whatever.
Yeah. What
winds up happening is if you think of it like, if we had, 100 employees and we put them in, we had 10 offices, each capable of holding 100 employees, but we only put 10 people in each office. Those 10 people feel like they're kind of alone. Right. And there's a lack of dynamism and a lack of energy and that sort of stuff. Right. So we had people spread over too many projects. So I just said, okay, wait a minute, this is foolishness. So October 1, we condensed almost the entire team into a single project. The rate of acceleration for our dev process has been so hard to measure because it's exceeded what we expected.
Wow, that's good.
But so that's a good thing. So now what we're doing is, we're looking at all of the. I expect that we will have all of the heavy dev work for the 737s in 24 finished by Christmas.
Awesome.
And I expect that either 2 or 3 of the 4 will have been released by the end of the year. The 4th one will come probably mid-late January. But the dev team is making the transition to the 747 fleet effective when everybody comes back from Christmas break.
Awesome.
And I expect we'll have the initial staples in our 747 product line out by the end of the year. We'll have the classic and the 400 done.
Wow.
The Dash 8, we're not sure how that's going to slot
Yeah.
across there. I mean, a lot of that work is done, but
Mm-hmm.
there's just the timeline
Right.
starts to go into 27.
Right.
I don't want
So
to.
we want to prioritize the classics. Prioritize the classics. That's yeah.
Yeah, it's I think so. I've been very careful in public to say like, hey, the classic is the model is really far ahead and the code is catching up.
Yeah.
The 400, the model's really far behind, but the code is all the way up front. So so I don't know exactly which one's going to come first, but if I were a betting man watching what's happened since October when we consolidated the team, I'm betting the 100 is going to be first, and the 400 will follow it. Probably 3 or 4 months later, because it's easier to accelerate code than it is to accelerate models, just because of how they're built. So so the 100 will be the lead off for the classic series is absolutely I
cannot
was
wait.
thinking this. Yesterday, I was thinking, I gotta have Stefan build a screen grab for you for the flight deck, so you can see. I'll shoot you one.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I would love it.
Absolutely spectacular.
Oh, I cannot wait.
And and it builds on the foundation of our software instrumentality for the 747 airplane, and the 747 airplane hasn't really changed a whole lot.
Yeah.
A lot of it got automated, a lot of it got turned into glass, but the core operating process for the airplane is still very similar. So it is going to be an absolutely magnificent product. I'm excited about it because to me as a kid, I mean, I was born right as the 747 was coming off the production line. And that was the airplane that had me looking at the sky and tripping over the dog all the time. So when it just that to me has always been the most romantic thing that about flying is that airplane. So,
Agreed, 100%.
When I was a kid, I think we're probably talking like 1983 here. Dad and I got sent out to go pick up pizza at some new pizza restaurant where we lived in Massachusetts. And we got there and the pizza wasn't ready. So we walked into the computer store that was next door to the pizza place. It had just opened. And it's funny the things you remember from childhood. I remember I could still, like, the carpet smelled new. Like, and you could smell the electronics.
Yeah.
And we walked in there and Dad was there. Dad's a nerd too. And he was sort of intrigued, but not enough that he would, he was more interested in other stuff. Like this was just kind of a peculiarity, and computers were sort of a passing fad. So I saw up on the wall a box with a cartridge, and it was this.
Oh yeah, jumbo jet pilot.
And I saw this on the wall, and I can't remember. That's when I probably demonstrated a future in sales, because I convinced Dad to buy me this. And by the way, you also have to buy me the computer hardware
for it
to go with it. And this was really like what set my imagination off for, like, we really need a good 747 simulator, because this was pretty cool for the time. It was terrible. And so we have at PMDG, we've always said one day we will do that airplane justice. And we're just about ready with that.
Oh, I cannot wait. That might be my most anticipated flight sim release of all time, I think. Just because I'm like you, there is no other queen than the 747. I mean, in all of aviation, I mean, I love the 727, L10, 11. I love tri-jets. I like the way they look, but you can't deny when you see a 747, you can't deny it. It is perfect. It doesn't matter if it's a 100. I mean, the SP looks a little, I'd put that at the bottom of the list of all the great 747s, but all of them, the 100, 200.
Oh, you're killing me. I love the SP.
No, I'm kidding. All of them. I mean, but seriously, the SP, they still have them in Vegas, right? Are they still over there? They had, what was it, MGM?
No, the Sands Corporation.
Yes,
they got rid of it. I was dangerously close to going there to fly.
Really?
I had some contacts, and they were like, no, come over. There were some personal reasons why I didn't. I made a bad life decision and decided it'd be fun to run for office. But they one of their airplanes, and those airplanes were absolutely spectacular.
I've got a lot of pictures of them.
Sheldon Adelson really he loved airplanes, and he loved doing it right. So they were done right, and the crews were really well cared for, and the airplanes were really well cared for, and one of them was sent down to I want to say Alabama. I might be wrong there. Might have been Arkansas, and it was there coming out of a D check.
Oh wow!
And a hurricane came through, took the roof off the hangar, and rotated the airplane.
Oh my gosh!
And it took damage to one wing, the nose, and the tail, and there was so much damage to the pressure hull that it was a write-off.
Wow!
The second airplane, they just retired last year, and she's now up in Kansas City at a museum up there.
Oh wow!
And just a beautiful ship, beautiful example. And I keep sending my wife out to buy the Powerball tickets when it gets to around $1 billion, because I harbor this fantasy that like if I can just convince her to just one time get the right ticket, I'm going to put a PMDG logo on the tail of an SP, and nobody might ever see me again, but there will be signs.
There will be signs. There will be signs. That's awesome. Wow. That's great.
So the fun things about the Classic that's coming. So we've set it up so that if you want to be like Raw Dog Classic, early 747 Classic, you've got the you've got the carousel INS, and you're going to have to whatever. And by the way, you did a magnificent master class on how to use that on the 727.
Oh, great. Well, thank you. Yeah.
I was, because for very weird reasons, I'm familiar with how it works.
Yeah.
And I sat there and I was like, man, he's actually explaining this really well. Like that, kudos to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
But so we have that. But then what we've done is, because, there's a fear factor there. A lot of simmers, they like the magenta line.
Right.
And they're comfortable, like take off, pull the gear
Absolutely.
off, and they're very comfortable managing the airplane and flying it, and that's rewarding. If we give the users an airplane that's going to just abuse the daylights out of them because they don't have the requisite technical knowledge, then that just takes the fun out of it, and no one's going to enjoy it. So how do we solve that? So Henning, who was the virtual flight engineer on the DC-6, we've decided it's time to let him. He's going to upgrade. So
nice.
So virtual Henning will be. Henning is one of the developers on our team, by the way.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. No, I didn't.
Yeah. Just awesome guy. Just
awesome.
Just incredibly awesome guy. He's one of those dudes that it doesn't matter how deep the crisis gets. You cannot ruffle the dude's feathers.
Perfect.
So
perfect client for the flight engineer. Yes.
So virtual Henning will be your flight engineer on the Classic, and you can delegate to him as much or as little as you want. You want to run the flows yourself? Great, run the flows. It'll keep track of where you are.
Yeah.
And then you can just hand the next one to him.
That's perfect.
So it'll be pretty smart. But he will also manage your waypoints for you in concert with. We haven't really named him, but I've been calling him Virtual Kyle. He's going to be the FO. And the two of them. So if you're a simmer who doesn't really understand this stuff, no problem. Pull your flight plan down from SimBrief, detail it to them. They will get all the waypoints entered. And then as the new waypoints need to be added, they'll keep doing it, and they'll tell you about it. Because you're the captain. They'll brief you, because they're really good.
Inserting new waypoint.
And so literally you can kind of sit back, and the airplane will take you where you want to go, just like it, was a magenta line, FMS.
Yes.
So we've really tried to make it so that you can sit back and watch and learn, and then take over parts of it yourself if you want to. So then, eventually you can get to the point where you can be like a one-man 747 Classic.
Right. That's busy. You're a busy man. You'd be a busy man.
Yeah. So, because it's sort of hilarious that on the 74 Classic, when I'm captain, if I've got a good flight engineer and a good FO, and I'm flying the leg, I got the easiest job.
That's exactly, not much for you to do. All right.
All I gotta do is call the checklists and disconnect the autopilot at the right moment. Right? That's it.
Yep.
So, we'll set it up that way.
Yeah.
Now, the other piece to it is that if you want a more modern version, obviously a lot of companies put FMSs and all the other stuff in there. So we have if you want to switch from the INS to an FMS based airplane, go into the menu, boom,
you can swap it. Wow, awesome. Very cool.
So users will have the ability to adapt the older technology to make it friendly to the way they want to fly.
Right.
Because ultimately that's what we want. We want people to buy it and fall in love with the romance of
Yes.
the older airplane.
Yes.
But
Yes.
if you want to fly it the way it was toward the end of its career, you can do
Yeah.
that. If you want to, like, be like you and I and abuse yourself and do it like the way it was at the beginning of the career, you can do that too.
Yeah.
So we're working on some of the nasty Pratt and Whitney engine problems.
Oh.
So you'll if
Oh,
you
good.
want to really have some fun,
Oh, yeah.
you can, if you abuse the throttles, they'll punish you for it.
Yeah.
So you can go find that hillside down in Columbia.
Oh,
again.
great. Yeah. I'm going to try to take it into that airport again. We're going to take the 7-4 in there on Pasto. So we'll see. Yeah.
Yep.
We'll see.
And let me see what else we got going on with it. So we're working on a bunch of stuff. My favorite item that we're working on, and I don't know if it'll be ready for release time. We've got a whole bunch of stuff coming that I'm not going to talk about.
Okay.
That just is like to add gameplay simulation value.
Okay.
That'd be a lot of fun. But one of the technical items that I will talk about, because I think it's important, because it's fun for nerds like us. We're working on a process that will allow, like, if you're going to be flying, like, okay, Saturday I'm gonna fly the airplane from A to B, and you're like, hey, I'd love to have an FO, I'd love to have a flight engineer. If I'm hanging around, I could be like, oh, hey, he's doing that route on. Oh, okay, I'm going to fly with him, and now I can click in and become your FO. Somebody can become your flight engineer. We're working on the base technology. It's a little ways to go still.
Yeah.
But really, what we'd like to be able to do is be able to build in some of that crew concept.
Yes, that would be huge. Yeah.
I mean, it would be.
That would be huge. Yeah.
Yeah. It would be fun. And there's other tools out there that do some of that. But we thought that by embedding it right into the core of the PMDG product, it would just be a better option, because
100%.
if we're doing it, we can give it access and set up the all the sequencing priorities and all the other stuff that it needs. So
100%. Yeah, there's nothing like a native integration with that. I mean, because there's been, even going back to X-Plane, there's been like plugins and stuff where you can try to do it, but then just like you're saying, stuff gets finicky on the priority, and there's nothing like having a native part of that coordination that would be really cool. That would be, man, I'm excited. Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. So if we get that running finally, so you and I are going to go fly the airplane together. So,
we'll do it. All right.
And it'll probably be like, it'll probably be just as bad as that Columbia trip.
We better not crash, because that would look real bad. Both of us trying actually hard.
It's going to give the internet a lot to talk about. They love to have stuff.
They love to talk about stuff. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Oh man. Well, Robert, I've taken over an hour of your time, so I want to let you go, but I really appreciate it. I mean, this has been a lot of fun, and I can't wait. I mean, I'm super excited for what's to come on the future here with PMDG. So,
well, thank you, and I hope I do enjoy harassing you in your stream.
Yes.
It's always,
no, I never would have guessed.
It's always tongue in cheek.
Oh, for sure.
There's a couple of you guys that have a good sense of humor,
yes,
and so
yes.
I'll come in there, lob a few grenades, and vanish.
Oh yeah, that's the best way to do it. That's the best way to do it.
But no, you've built a great community. It's fun, and I mean, sitting here in the office, the TV's up on the wall over there, and I will, as I'm working on stuff, I'll put different streams on, and and if I can catch them live, it's always fun.
I appreciate that.
We put a lot of work into it.
Yeah.
I have a pretty good idea how much work there is. So, but good luck with your
I appreciate
with your new
that.
endeavor.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Wish you well, and
all right,
we'll see you real soon.
I'll see you real soon. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you again.
All right.
Bye bye.